going to go ahead and review really quickly multiplying of fractions, and we worked this earlier. So when we multiply fractions, we need to remember that we do not need a common denominator. Multiplying is the most basic form of working in fractions, and that's where we can multiply straight across. The only step that might save you some time in the end would be to go through and what they call cross cancel. So if you can cross cancel, it just helps you so that you don't have to reduce your answer later. So when I talk about cross canceling, this is what I'm saying. When I look at 1/3 times 3/7, I'm comparing this top number to my bottom numbers, and I notice that I have 3 in both the top and the bottom. So that means that 3 would go into each of these. So 3 would go into 3 once, and 3 would go into 3 once. And now if I multiply straight across, 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 7 is 7, so I get 1/7. Had I not done the cross canceling, we would have had 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 7 is 21. And then we would have had to realize from that point that, oh, 3 would go into both 3 and 21, which would then take us back to this 1 and 1/7. So cross-canceling is something that will help you in not having to reduce larger numbers. So it's something, if you're comfortable with, to go ahead and try it out and see if you can get more comfortable with it. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're actually going to be working fractions, and we're going to be using rational numbers, so they're not always going to be positive. So we're going to review really quick when we multiply and divide integers from last chapter, what we would do. So let's say I had -4 times 5. When I would multiply those out, I would take 4 times 5 to get my number part of my answer, which is 20. And then multiplying and dividing is when we would get to go through and count the number of negative signs. So here there's only one negative sign between the two digits, which means that's an odd number. It makes my answer a -20. So this is when we worked with integers. We're going to use that same concept, only we're going to combine multiplying fractions and counting our negatives to decide if our answer is positive or negative. Okay, so let's try one of these out. So here I have -4/9 times -3/5. So I'm going to go through and look at this really quick in terms of, I know I'm multiplying, so I have 2 negative signs. I know in the end my answer is going to be a positive answer. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. I already know it's going to be positive. Now, as I look at 4/9 and 3/5, if you don't like the negative signs in there, you can go ahead and rewrite it without those now, because we're really only using those negative signs to decide if our answer is positive or negative. Okay, this is what I'm noticing. As I look at these fractions here, I am noticing 3 and 9 both have 3, that they're divisible by 3. So I could cross cancel. Through 3 divided by 3 would give me 1. 9 divided by 3 would give me 3. Now if I multiply straight across, 4 times 1 is 4. Over 3 times 5 is 15. That's my answer lowest term. So my final answer would actually be a positive 4/15. Okay, if you hadn't cross canceled, you would have had 12 over 45. And then you would have had to be able to look at that and say, I wonder what number would go into both of those. And I know those are 2 digits where it's really, really hard to see, versus if you could just learn to compare some of these smaller ones, like 3 and 9, you would see that actually each of these could have been divided by 3 over 3. It's just easier to see when they're in these smaller numbers like this. Okay, so it's something to try. It will help you in not maybe having to reduce some numbers that are quite so large. Okay, so let's try another one. So here we have -2/7 times 3/4. So my first step is to always, let's look to see if our answer is going to be positive or negative. And we have 1 negative sign there, so I know my answer is going to be a negative answer. Now on this one, is there anywhere that we could cross cancel? Let's see, would 2 work into 7 or 4? Yep, 2 would go into 4 an even number of times. So 2 would go into itself once and into 4 twice. Okay, so that's doing that cross canceling. 3 won't go into 7 or 2. So now I'm going to multiply straight across. 1 times 3 is 3 over 7 times 2 is 14. So I end up with negative 3/14. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put another one up here. I'll go ahead and write it out so that you can practice. Okay, so this is going to be your independent work. So I want you to go through and let's do negative 5/7 times negative 3/10. Now the reason I'm putting that second one in a parenthesis is just so that you realize that it's not times a minus, it's times a negative. So now you're going to go through, work your way through this problem. So you can pause your video, work your way through, and then check back in just a second to see what your final answer is. So you should have gotten positive 3/14 when it was reduced down. Okay, so that's working with just regular fractions.